What does your recycling bin smell like? You have to unmute.
Okay. I would say like Sylvia.
Okay, Megan.
It doesn't have a smell because I rinse everything out. You wouldn't know how much wine I'm drinking. Thank you.
Okay. Jason, Lily. Okay, Tracy.
I'm with the ones who rinse it out. Mine doesn't have a lot of smell unless it's fresh cardboard smell. It's all clean.
Okay, I think I got everybody.
Okay. I can clearly tell by the crowd.
Wait, I'm an experimentalist. I'm going to do the experiment.
Ah, yeah.
Doesn't smell like anything. Sorry.
Smells like life.
What do you like to smell?
Well, I can tell that by the answers of this group that 2020 and recycling, it's a good time to be an alcoholic. I can say that. So we're helping recycling quite a bit here. Drink up, everybody. So I like that. How about next question? Let's go to the next question.
Probably hanging up.
Okay. So we're going on the compost now. So yeah, I'm so excited about this question. I soiled myself. So,
Oh.
No, and I'll tell the story. So I did the best compost contest in Tulsa for years. I was treasurer of the garden center, and we had trophies for the best rose and the best iris. And I thought, why not best dirt? And so I had this contest, and it was fun, and the people would participate, and gold shovels and stuff, and a gold shovel for the best recipe. But it was fun to do compost and really sell composting. And the secret to these events were we were selling compost bins to amateurs, and we had a contest for the experts. So we didn't have to be an expert. There were people to talk to. So they would go up and talk. So all the people who were entered, oh, we made the final table. Our compost gets so excited. And it was this great organic thing, and pun intended, that all these people are hanging around talking about their compost from all the people who wanted to start composting. It worked great. So my first year, however, County Commissioner Karen Keith was a Channel 2 NBC News reporter, and I always try to get a celebrity judge. And she trusted me, which is such a mistake. You should never trust me. Because she said, Michael, and she's right there with compost in her hand. She goes, Michael, how do I judge this? And I said, by taste. And she almost did it. She almost put it in her mouth before I stopped her and said, no, 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 no. So, oh well. Anybody have any good compost stories? Anything fun in your compost bin? Anybody put, I put paper towel rolls for little air pockets in the compost thing, and gets little air pockets. So they're from tissue paper, little towels and stuff are great.
Oh.
If you have an herb garden and you have extra herbs, you can throw those in the compost pile, and your compost will smell like herbs.
Oh, Fenton has a story, and if Fenton didn't tell on himself, I was going to tell on him.
Well, and this relates back to what does your compost or what does your recycle bin smell like? I sell my cans, so I have a bag that smells like beer, so that's the way I answered. But I immediately thought about the 2 compost bins that we have in our kitchen, and because they have lids on them, if you don't empty them regularly, they begin to really smell because of the process of decomposition in the absence of oxygen, which is what I teach my students about. That is what came to my mind. Thank you.
Fenton, you want to talk about worms?
Worms escaping?
I
In
will
the office
say
place and...
I will say that as many times as I have tried worm bins, I have failed because I could not, for whatever reason, monitor their environment daily. The time that I was most successful with worms, I put them on my compost so they could migrate on their own instead of me having to manage them. And I have recently moved to a farm, and I've gotten 2 orders of worms now from my brother, try to create my worm bin. So I am struggling again, but I definitely believe in worm compost.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So I think, I mean, worms are the secret. They really do a great job. And I used to give them to elementary schools. We get these little aquariums, and I bought worms. You can buy worms, by the way, Grog's Green Barn in Tulsa, or on the internet. And you can find ways that $15 a pound or so shipped for a bunch of worms. And if you do it right, they will. The red wiggler in particular is the Cadillac of worms, and they have more reproductive cycles per year, so they'll really get big. And the worm castings are really rocket fuel. They're the best compost. So I ordered some from the internet. I brought them home, and worms have to settle a little bit, but I didn't know this. So I put my worms in my compost bin in a little aquarium-sized container in the dining room table and went to bed. And the next day they'd crawled out, and my wife, our ex-wife at the time, was furious that there's worms all over the dining room. And all I could say to her was, "Stampede!" Anybody else? Any other composting? Anything else fun?
Oh, Cheryl.
I literally just throw my stuff out in that. I have a little like ditch because the water was going into my neighbor's yard. So I started just throwing stuff out there, and now this is pretty much, it's grown into just flowers and stuff. So I don't do anything with it. I let nature take its course, and I throw all seeds. I throw anything, food, whatnot, and that's my compost pile. So I don't ever really use anything. I just throw it out there, and it's turned into a lovely little wild garden.
Nice. Graham?
Oh, yeah. First, I'd say, harken back to years past, and Michael would appreciate this. Shelley Umazawa was a fantastic vermicomposting person and a great educator. Of course, she passed away a few years back, and we all loved her. And she was the only one at the Met. Now, maybe Michael's an exception. I don't know. But basically, the only one that was really successful at it. And so we kind of have given up on that, but we do a lot of education around worms and vermicomposting. So we do buy worms, and we take them to classes with students. Of course, now a lot of it's virtual, but now we're still giving them away we get them to the kids. I'm not sure how our educator does it. She gets them to the kids and then does the education online. So vermicomposting and the education around it is still alive and well, and harkens back to Shelley Umazawa.
Ellen,
Yes.
I gave worms to my daughter's kindergarten teacher, and she turned them into a counting and sorting exercise.
Cool. I'm sure the kids loved it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you sort them, the adults, away from the babies, and then you can take the adults somewhere else and let them go for another gestation cycle. So that's great. I like that. Well, I think it's fun. I mean, composting, I was glad that Chaz today at the session talked a little bit about composting. I'd asked that question to him, and he talked about how many things are happening in other states on composting. And I felt bad for a moment that Oklahoma didn't have more going for it, because we should. I mean, we're a farming community. Farmers are the best composters. I mean, so I always thought we should do something more. And today it kind of inspired me that we really, really need to make the difference. I was trying to take the Tulsa numbers from the curbside recycling, and Tulsa's pulling out per week like 1,200 pound recyclables per year per household. But the average lot size in Tulsa is doing about 900 pounds of grass clippings. So we could almost double our recovery rates by just simply really focusing on yard waste.
Sarah.
Well, I think there are lots of good things going on in Oklahoma about composting, and sorry for the dogs barking in the background. But the compost conference is going on, so a little plug for them. And I know we've probably got some people on here associated with that, but they've had one session last week, and they're going to be doing at the lunch hour every Thursday in the month of October. So check those out if you're able. But also there is the Master Composter group that started in Tulsa, and Steve Wood was the champion. If any of you knew Steve, he was an amazing, amazing composter and called himself the worm guy, did lots of outreach. But there's also a group in Oklahoma City, Master Composter group, through the local extension offices. So I think there are good things happening with compost, and we just need to share those stories.
Hilda.
I ditto what Sarah just said. And also I heard that in Oklahoma, our soil could use some amendment.
Yep. Very true.
So
Very
why
true.
aren't we making more compost?
Well, can
in our
someone-
raising his hand. Okay, Benton.
I was just going to make the point that Ilda just made. We have a long history of poor farming in Oklahoma, and we desperately need more organic matter for our soil. And if you look at the composition of the waste stream, about half is compostable. So if we're thinking about zero waste, that is the direction we have to go.
Good. Hey, can someone, it's about the compost conference, if someone could make sure that gets emailed out or even put it on here as a link in your comments section, that'd be great to share with that. We all really need to participate in that. I mean, we're all doing a great job, and a lot of new things are to be recycled and challenges before us, but I just think that the potential, I mean, our future tonnage, and we don't base ourselves based on tons anymore. I mean, it's toxicity more than tonnage what really matters to us as waste professionals and when it gets recycled. E-waste is more important than wine bottles, I think, for that reason, to make sure it doesn't go into landfills and done the wrong thing to. But there's just so much tonnage out there, and everybody who composts makes a garden, and every garden is better for the earth. I mean, we become more fertile, and what better place in Oklahoma to do that? I mean, if you really think about it, when we're talking about, Fenton mentioned, our history of bad soil management. I mean, we were the Dust Bowl, and now I live in green country. And how do we do that? By keeping our soil, making it green. I mean, if the earth is a painting, this is the fresh paint. I mean, we're getting greener and all these kind of things, all things we've done as a state, and we should accentuate that with our green waste. We really should try to keep organics out. Ready for the next question? Let's go, Jared. Okay. This is one that I used to work and hang out with people who didn't recycle at all, and I would sigh relief and yank the recyclable out of the trash can and carry it over the recycling bin. And I know some of us are the same person. Now I end up doing it at festivals. So it's not my coworkers. I'm at a festival and I see that. So I'm just gonna, why is there a water bottle? The recycling bin's right next to it. I'm gonna do that. So anybody that's the same me, am I the only weirdo who sorts out trash from other people at places?
Okay, Fenton, I see the other two hands. I'll get to you.
I am so embarrassed to say that I do this almost every day because of my daughter and her husband. They do not have nearly the same concern or commitment or understanding. So I have to sort, and in fact, I still have to go through our trash before it's collected in the morning.
Faye.
I was just say that my brother lives in Canute, which is, 35 miles west of Weatherford, and they saved their plastic bottles for me because they know when I go to their house, I bring my stuff home with me, and now they've been bringing their bottles over to me, and we take them to our recycle center.
Megan.
Yeah, just every day. Well, not even coworkers, just offices in the same building. Well, actually, I've gotten them ashamed enough that they leave their water bottles out for me after they fill the Keurig. Okay, that's a place to start. So, I've got them doing that. So there's that.
I like it. I mean, I have to use shame too. I'm just not very good at people. They laugh at what I say. So I can't just be mean. You don't do that again. They won't listen. They'll just laugh at me. They think I'm playing some character, but it is a problem. And I wish we had that. I don't mean to use negative reinforcement to make people do things, but I mean, I'm just stunned by how many people, and it's maybe we can discuss the reasons why. Do they not understand what is recyclable? Do they not understand when there's a recycling bin? At some of the gas stations in the Tulsa area, they have a recycling bin and a trash can next to each other. And I'm amazed how much there's no extra effort. How many people do it wrong there? And and they have a decent signage, but I mean, what's our solution? Does anybody have any better solutions for the general public besides just, I'm sorry, your kids can't play with their kids because they don't recycle properly. So we're gonna somehow blacklist them. Is that the only way we can do this? Any suggestions, anybody?
I don't know, but I have a problem when I walk through the neighborhood and see people with corrugated boxes out with the trash. I really want to pull them out of their trash can and go 2 doors down where they have an American Waste Control recycle bin and put it in there. But with everybody's security cameras, I'm afraid I'd get arrested for recycling all the cardboard in the neighborhood. And Fenton, I feel your pain. These young people just don't always get it. Now, my son knows that he'll get in trouble, so he puts his cans on the counter by my sink, even though he knows where the recycling bin is. But at least he's not throwing it in the trash, so.
Ellen?
Yes.
I really hoped that you would say that I inspired him.
You probably did. Him and Jack both. So, Graham.
Yeah, I would say echo. I already said my mom taught me to recycle, and then there was a survey done a few years back in Broken Arrow, and the number one recyclers by far was 65 and over, which is kind of an interesting twist on what some people might assume. But I think it's appreciation for the value of something, or maybe we're just cheapskates. I'm not sure, but maybe it's the same thing. But that's okay. And I learned it from my Depression era parents that grew up in the Depression, and they knew what having nothing was.
Frank, I think I saw your hand up.
Interestingly, it's our kids who keep us in line. My kids, all four, the 2 and their 2 significant others, live in Denver, and they have everything separated, and food scraps go in one place, and they've got about 4 different bins, and lo and behold, if you accidentally put it in the wrong bin, you get reminded of it. So they keep us on our toes. But in answer to the other question, I've lived in a lot of places. I spent a sabbatical in Sweden where I just loved the way that their approaches to recycling. At the end of almost every subdivision, there would be a huge recycling center with some big bins in it. You'd never think about throwing away batteries into the trash. Quite frankly, after all of the other places that we've lived, I don't think Oklahomans care about the environment as much as they do in other states like Colorado, and Denver in particular is a hotbed. They really seem to care about their environment. So what we need to do is we need to change how people feel about it. And I think it's slowly changing, but I think if you look at all the environmental problems that we have, maybe we can start to turn the corner on this.
Okay, thank you. Ilda.
I agree with everything that's been said, and someone said something about value. So I think helping people understand the value of these materials, for instance, with a bottle bill, that really assigns value, and I think the public will understand better that these used materials can be made into new things. And some of us grew up with a bottle bill, either outside of Oklahoma or in Oklahoma, because there used to be a bottle bill in this state a long time ago. So yeah, I think assigning value would really help the situation in our state.
Any more, Alan? I like what Frank was saying about the kids doing it and the values there and making them, I think maybe that's the answer for us, is to shame old people. You know, the old people are the best recyclers, but our kids have to keep us in line. So maybe we can, but maybe recycling is difficult for young people who are too busy to pay attention to rules. I don't know. I mean, do we have to gray-splain ourselves? I mean, so I kind of feel that way sometimes.
I have an idea. I think that we should have people take turns doing college move-in days. I volunteered for ILDA when my son went to OSU, and all of the cardboard and the waste. And these parents and kids would head to the dumpster and say, oh no, we're going to save that. We're going to recycle it and put it. I mean, the dumpster filled up in like 2 hours. I couldn't believe all of the stuff. I felt like I was harvesting cardboard. There was so much. So I think we need to make it mandatory, you know, as part of their community service, that all students have to work a recycling center so that they can see it for themselves. How's that for an answer, Michael?
That's a great idea.
Good. And we collected 20 tons that year just during move-in week.
I was pretty
Cardboard.
persuasive. Faye?
I know the dorms here at Southwestern all have special containers during move-in days and those things, and they do still collect stuff on campus that they take down to the recycling center, even as part of the citywide, you know, effort. But special efforts are done at move-in time, and they've done some good jobs with that.
Great. Anybody else? Trudy?
Well, I just have to say that I have the problem at Tinker where the recycling bin is right next to the trash can, and every single day I go in and I'm pulling aluminum cans and plastic bottles out of that. And I get frustrated. I feel like I'm working with children. And one day I said something about, I just muttered under my breath that these people must think I'm their mother, you know. Well, the next day I went in and sure enough, there's more cans in the trash can, and one of them has a nice little note to me with the word mother and the F word on it. So yeah, they got the message. Still throwing their cans in the trash.
Oh,
So.
never
It's
mind.
ridiculous.
Kara?
I recently had a daughter move for college, and since my kids were small, I've always had them recycle. It's been part of their chores to do, and I just try to teach them the habit, because I do think it is a lot about habit. Once you get yourself used to it, then you're used to taking the extra effort, and it's not a big deal. But I went to her house, and they have curbside there, which we didn't when she lived with me because we live in a rural area. She hadn't started that yet, and before I got to her house, she told her roommates, hurry up, we got to get all the cardboard and water bottles before Mom gets here, because she'll be so mad if I don't recycle.
I'm so proud of you, Kara. You're the mom. You're the mom.
I don't know if it's positive or negative reinforcement, but either way it worked.
Fenton?
I was just trying to endorse what Kara did. Thank you.
Interestingly, we've had a discussion on 2 or 3 topics, and it's been a generational issue. We learned from our parents to do this. They were the first ones who managed to recycle, and now maybe the people who teach us to recycle or keep us doing it. So that's interesting. When we think of our education opportunities, maybe we should make that the focus. You're the good recycler. Influence the people around you to recycle more, and find that champion in every family to be the person there, and maybe target campaigns for that. There's got to be one in every group to be that champion, that mother, like the Tinker Air Force Base that Trudy does. But also what Frank was saying about how the people don't respect the environment in Oklahoma. I think I met a guy once. I did a bunch of water quality work many years ago and stuff, and I was complaining that people in Oklahoma don't seem to have the same respect as people in Minnesota for water quality. And he said to me that it's because generations of fathers and grandfathers have taken their kids fishing in Minnesota, and Oklahoma's lakes are new. I mean, most of these lakes have only been around for a generation or two, so we haven't had that transition. And maybe fishing's not as important as it was back then, but his point was fishermen are the people who care about the water the most. I mean, that's why I buy a fishing license every year. Not that I ever fish, but I want to support the agency, the state agency that does water quality work in Oklahoma. I encourage everybody to do that as well. To try, because they actually care about water quality. So maybe the same thing exists for trash. Maybe when we have generations of people doing this, it becomes a generational thing. We'll respect what trash is. I know that my attitudes to recycling are a lot of times very negative because of trash. And one of the things I blame myself for in life is this landfill outside of Tulsa, in North Tulsa, that did not exist when I was a child. And I spent my life trying to get people to recycle, and yet there's now a 200-foot mountain on Highway 75 leaving Tulsa that didn't exist. And I feel it's a constant reminder of my failure and our failure as a state to allow these things to happen individually. So we need to figure it out. We need to find the answer for this, of how these people who are close to us, who co-workers or family members, don't seem the same passion for us. And there's got to be a thing. We're the group to figure this out in Oklahoma. So we really need to find this as a group.
Frank,
Anybody else? Okay, let's go to the next question.
Thank you. Oh,
wait, Frank has a
I was
comment
just
first.
going to say something. You know, one of the things that I've been very impressed with is how the younger generation is accepting of others, different lifestyles. You know, when you look at kids who were put in classes where other kids maybe helped them through their studies if they were, you know, not as fast or maybe didn't have the intellectual capacity as others. And young people have really made a difference in acceptance of others. And a lot of that is because we taught them that in schools. It's a fantastic success story. And this is one of the areas where I think our country kind of leads in many respects. I think we just need to apply, or not just, but I think we need to apply some of these same kind of K through 12 educational experiences about the environment and our need to protect it. And I think the kids will recognize, as a 13-year-old in Sweden did, that this is the right thing to do and we ought to do it. And I think we can have, that's where I think we could have one of the biggest impacts.
Okay, let's go into the next question. Oh, wait, Cheryl.
Yeah, I was going to say something real quick. I've got it all different aspects in my life because I learned a lot of my recycling from my grandparents because they lived in the Depression. And so I saw a lot of recycling with them and even financially, I mean, money and everything. But see, my dad and my mom didn't do anything. And I was always big about recycling. And of course, they were the hippies, but I'm the one that actually did all the, they call me the hippie because I did all the recycling. Well, it took my dad like almost, I don't know, 60 years before he started recycling. And he lives in Guyman, and he actually takes his plastic bottles, collects them, and brings them to me when he visits so I can recycle the plastic bottles. But he didn't start doing that until, till he was 2 years old. And then my mom, she doesn't recycle. But then my son, he recycles when he's at my house. But when he's at his dad's, since his dad doesn't recycle, he doesn't recycle there. Going to college, I did the same thing. I gathered all of the recyclable stuff because their recycle bin was filled. And he told me later on, he said they stopped doing the recycles because the kids were polluting it. They weren't doing it correctly. So they stopped recycling at WSU. So I think it's literally, I've had friends who started recycling because of me. I would take their recycles and bring in my house and they started doing it themselves. So it's a matter of who really wants to do it. I mean, I'm an influence in so many different areas of my family and friends, but not everybody does it. Only some of them do. So it's honestly more of just if you really want to do it. I hate to say it, but it's sad in that sense. So.
Good. Any more, Ellen? Okay, here's our question. I love this question. We were coming up with these today while I was watching the seminar today, all the different topics and stuff. And I was really impressed by the numbers that Chaz was giving out about the strongest market in America right now is for plastics in either the car industry or the clothing industry. And I thought about, I'm trying to think of all the recycled clothing I know I have. I remember 20 years ago getting a t-shirt that said, "This used to be a pop bottle." And I really love that shirt. The simple message of that shirt, I've always felt like we should have that as a giveaway item for the conference or something, because it was such a simple message. I used to be something else, and now I'm in this other form and completely reusable. But I have some socks. I have a vest. We bought safety vests, for example, recycled content. I have some T-shirts. I know other things exist, but and flags, and I mean, a lot of things exist that are made from recycled content, and not just in clothing, but in other materials as well. So when I try to buy Christmas gifts, one of the things I look at first is does it stick to a magnet? Because I know steel is one of the most recyclable metals. And if I know, even if it fails, if it's some product that's going to be, if it's made from steel, I know it has a chance for a longer life than the things that are not, they're bimetal. But other people, examples of recyclable clothing, recyclable items, something you found that, or you made that became some treasure in your life? Anybody else?
Okay, Fenton first and then Megan.
So the point that I wanted to make was if I have a t-shirt made out of a plastic bottle, how long does it keep that plastic bottle out of the landfill? and my t-shirt wears out, is it recyclable? No. So those particular uses are not circular. And so we need to rethink that question, I think.
Okay, Megan? Thanks.
Jeans, blue jeans. One of the local stores here has blue jeans made out of plastic bottles and tennis shoes.
Wow.
Jeans and tennis shoes both. Yep.
Tracy Horst.
There is a product, it goes against what Fenton was just saying about, which I do like the comment about the whole circular. There's a company called Green Toys that makes toys out of plastic or HDPE bottles, basically. And so I adopt angels every year for Christmas, and I try to buy them one of those green toys, and I do it from the fact of I just want to raise awareness to them that they can get recycled materials and have them made out of something else.
Great. Ilda?
I also, for the many years I've been educating on recycling, have been promoting items made out of recycled materials, especially shirts, AstroTurf, all kinds of things. But now we're learning about microplastics. So I'm really concerned about washing my polyester clothes and how much of those microplastics are ending up in our water source. And the AstroTurf, even plastic mulch, what a bad idea that is to let it loose in the environment. So I think we really need to be wise about what we turn into plastic. I mean, carpet is an indoor product. It's probably not going to get into the environment, but whatever we're washing in the washing machine, I think this is in the future might be an issue for us. So I'm kind of regretting a little bit all of the push on how great, how fantastic plastic recycling is. Just thought I'd put that out there.
I know I've seen clothes in the LL Bean catalog, and I think even Land's End, coats and jackets and pullovers that have a pretty decent recycled content. And I understand what you're saying, Patton, about not having a circular product. But I think
go ahead.
I think a lot of us here have solved that in that we have glass water bottles or aluminum water bottles that we carry, and we don't give in to the plastic water bottle siren that calls, use me, throw me away, use me, throw me away.
So it seems like plastics is our issue with this. Is the life cycle of plastics and the microfibers. Is this an issue for other materials? I mean, and some things can't be recycled forever. I mean, the chips of wood can only be recycled it's like 5 times, no matter what. From the finest grade writing papers to tissue paper is about 5 steps. And then you can't. There's no more tactile strength. The chips won't touch each other, so it rips and tears. Glass bottles, on the other hand, can always be made into a glass bottle, into a glass bottle, into a glass bottle. Same with steel cans, forever and ever and ever. But if we make a steel can into another product that's used in a different way, what is the life cycle of that product? And I agree with Fenton that if all we're going to do is wear it for a while, but sometimes I think materials then have a new life. That new life could be extended much, much further. So maybe you wouldn't wear that shirt every single day, but let's take the clothing part out of the thing. The car that uses recycled plastics in it. So that car is going to be now part of someone's life for 5 years. And the fact that they're using, that was the demand for recycled content that Chaz said today, that the auto industry has been the reason that we're having stable plastics markets, because they're putting more and more recycled content in car bodies and protective. You can't get to your battery anymore until you make a piece of plastic over it.
Okay, Megan, Graham, and then Ilda. Let's start with Megan.
Did you say me? I'm sorry. Mine was back there. I'm back on the plastic bottle question, because here's my thing. When I have volunteers who come to do a project with me to help do something, I can't bring the 5-gallon igloo anymore and say, hey, bring your recyclable thing and we'll, fill that up with ice and water. I've got to give them plastic bottles. Now I recycle them, I take them and I put them in the recycling bin, but I can't get away from giving my volunteers a plastic bottle.
I get it. Graham?
Yeah, I think another part of the equation, Fenton talked about the circular economy, which I think is extremely important. But I think thinking about the economic value, and that's what Chaz talked a little bit about plastics and into clothing or carpeting, is that they can pay a higher price than some of the other recycled products that come from PET plastic, for instance. So if it increases the overall price of the product, then that also helps in the recycling equation. So it's a complicated equation. The circular economy is part of it, is the way I look at it.
Hilda?
And yeah, I think plastics are definitely can be a part of the circular economy if we could collect more of them. But I think it's only 9% of all the single-use disposable plastics that we're collecting. And because the other things that we collect, metals, paper, cardboard, all the fibers and glass, they're all organic materials. If they do get loose in the environment, they're all going to break down eventually into organic materials where plastic is not, and it will remain plastic molecules for forever and ever. So that's why if we collected more of the plastic that's out there, I think it would be a successful recycling story. But so much of it's getting loose in the environment. I really think it's something we need to think about.
Sarah?
Yeah, so I've just been sitting here thinking, and I agree a lot with what Fenton said about, the ultimate, what's going to happen to those items like carpeting and clothing. But I'm not a fast fashion person. I don't know how long I've had this shirt or most of the things in my closet. I know there's lots of talk about fast fashion, but so one of the recycled content items that I can think of that I bought recently was at a national park. They have a brand that promotes that they use 6.5 plastic water bottles in each shirt. And I know that I don't use plastic water bottles very often, but when I do, it's a single use. And that shirt that I got at the national park, I'm probably going to have for a very long time, and with hopes of turning that into a quilt or something at some point with all my national park shirts. And same with carpeting. I mean, the carpet in my house is at least 11 years old, if not much older than that. So at least those items will probably be around a lot longer than that single-use water bottle.
Well, I love the discussion so far. I really, I'm trying to reflect a lot in my life of what's important and what I've done right and what I've done wrong. And doing comedy in Tulsa and probably everywhere, most of the audience is much younger. I mean, people my age don't go out and don't see these things. And most of the comics are younger. So I'm trying to find ways to relate to younger audiences. I'm trying to see my life in their eyes and find what they think. And I know I mean, they hate boomers, and they should. I mean, we're a terrible generation. I mean, they had their chance in COVID to kill us. All they had to do was shake our hand. They got away with it. It's a perfect crime. We got away with it. Issue, but what I'm trying to talk to the young people, but why is it important in these things, and what have I done wrong? And I have to admit, as boomers, one of the things I've done wrong is I accepted water bottles. It's the worst packaging decision in my lifetime. Why did we as a society accept bottled water? I mean, even canned water, I thought that would be better because the value of the can could have been recycled. But I mean, it's up there by the stupidest things that my generation allowed. And that's why they should be mad at us, because we accepted that. And there are a lot of problems that I have to be responsible for. And one of them is I should have said no. I was thinking about the recyclability. And I thought water bottles, for example, when we were pushing bottle bills at the state legislature, the last time I presented in committee, I talked about all the water bottles now. So the arguments against all the sticky bottles in grocery stores has gone away. That I made the case that the 280 water bottles are not being recycled per person per year is going to be $14 income. So, and people are not going to do it. Even in the best recycled states, I mean, Iowa has less than 80% redemption. So there's $100 million worth of nickels out there for Oklahomans with a bottle bill. But I made the case that the water bottles were actually helpful because they were another reason to start doing a bottle bill. But in reality, I know it was a terrible decision, and we should never have them. And once is not enough. So I have water bottles in my refrigerator, but I turn them in and use them again. I really constantly, I mix an energy drink in them and use that. And so I try to find different ways. Others? Okay. Do we have any more questions, Jared? Okay. This kind of fits our questions to companion to this. This is hard. It's hard to buy recycled, especially if you shop at the wrong stores. I mean, you can't even buy American made at Walmart, let alone recycled content some kinds. I mean, I believe every dollar I spend is a vote for something. It could be a vote for the environment. And I think that I've always tried to make the case that the package matters. If all ketchups toss the same, and all ketchups taste about the same, maybe the bottle is what makes ketchup better. So to find one that's a recyclable one or two to make the argument. But
no, glass bottles are best for ketchup and
recycled
spaghetti
forever.
sauce.
Yeah, so all these things. So we're all trying to buy recycled products. So I kind of wanted to start with, we're running up to time tonight, but where are we finding these recycled products? Someone mentioned a site earlier that had some things. So can some people just kind of share some places that if you were to go, if you were trying to find personal things, recycled items. So let's share some ideas. Who has websites they go to or stores they know you can find these things? Anybody?
I know Aldi and Sprouts does. I shop at both of those places, so they do.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, I was calling on Babe. What did you say? I talked over you.
Sorry, Aldi and Sprouts do, because those are the two main places I shop at, and they're always making sure that they have recycled products. So,
and I try to find that green package when I buy new copy paper that's got the recycled content in it. It's sometimes you can find it, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, I'm glad the copier paper and recycled content is the same price at Staples now. So I check that regularly, and I do end up buying copier paper. I know I shouldn't kill trees just for memos, but you have to sometimes. People demand it, and I have to file them in court. They won't take my word or my phone image. I have to have a piece of paper for them to stamp with their little guard. But for a long time, recycled content, it was a little more expensive. And it was hard to find recycled, made from recycled, not just recyclable, made from recycled. So that became a real challenge. But if we had one thing that's really going to fix the recycling infrastructure is more demand for recycled content. As Chaz said, what Americans are doing better now is doing a better job of sorting. Or even our recycling processing facilities are a better job of slowing down and sorting more. So we're having cleaner materials. The big China green wall, well, they'll never buy our paper again from us. It was needed. And the plastic bottles from us, they'll never buy again because we were sending trash to China. We were thinking we're doing the right thing, and we were not doing it. We were sending trash. So I kind of like that. So if we all purchase recycled, do a better job of recycling, the purchase recycled is what's going to fix this. That's going to create demand. If I'm making a product and I have a choice to buy it from recycled content or not, and they're the same price, raw material, the same availability, of course, that's another feather in my cap, another thing we can do. Others?
Megan?
I said a while ago that I had blue jeans. They're actually from Cato's. So if Cato's is selling the same jeans and some of them have recycled bottles used and some don't, I'm going to go with the recycled bottle use.
Nice, nice.
Graham?
Yeah, one product I've purchased is Trax composite lumber. There's another product called Moisture Shield composite lumber. It's made from sawdust and plastic bags, number 2 plastic bags. And the reason I know about Moisture Shield is the Met could not find a market for our plastic bags. We bale about 90,000 plastic bags a month, and that's about 2 bales and 500-pound bales. And we have no place to take them. So we were desperate, and we found a place in Arkansas that does make Moisture Shield composite lumber. And so we have to actually haul the bales to them so we can give them to them so they will make the lumber and we make sure our stuff is recycled. Otherwise, it would just accumulate. And but composite lumber, I made with tracks. I put a dock up on one of our ponds, and this dock, it works just like wood, nails, screws, the whole thing, but it lasts like plastic. So this thing is about 15 years old, and you'd think I put it in yesterday. So there's a product that's going to last probably the rest of my lifetime. So that's, that's not bad, especially plastic bags and sawdust, two really waste products. So I really like that stuff.
I know the Northeast Recycling Conference or the NRC is pushing a buy recycled campaign. I can't remember the lady's name, but basically they're doing an awards program for businesses and companies about buying recycled products. And if you have the intent and you're trying, you can get recognized. And if you actually do it, then you get recognized one more. Maybe this is something that Okra could look into, is a buy recycled campaign, setting up some kind of recognition, state agencies that buy recycled content, tribal nations that buy recycled content, businesses. It would be a way to raise awareness. Just a thought.
Any more questions, Jared? Are we out of questions? Oh, here we go. Last one. This is a threshold of pain. And I use this question because there are certain things I'm willing to pay more for any item, but not just clothes. I used to say for organic. The organic carrots were about 20% more than conventionally grown, but yet organic apples were 100% more. So what was my threshold to pay? So would you be willing? I think everyone here is probably going to have similar answers here, but go ahead and do this one real quick. And Ellen, I'm sorry we're running out of time before we can really discuss this very much. So I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. There's our answers. It was good. I especially appreciate all people who typed in comments and stuff. I hope you can go back and read those if you didn't see them. So we got a lot of information, especially like the last questions, the new places to shop. And I really appreciate it. I had a good time today. I think it was our best session we've had in many, many years. And Chaz was a great speaker, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's discussions. So it's going to be really fun to see you all again tomorrow. And I'll end with this before we go, because it's really 7 o'clock, need to go. To me, one of the most important things right now is that we're in an election cycle. And I don't want to talk politics here. I don't want to say vote blue, vote red, vote purple. But I'm saying that I have people who are running for office that are reaching out to me. They're knocking on doors. They're at booths at different things I go to and stuff. And if they ask me, if I see them, I start a conversation about recycling. Right now, this is the time to do that. Say, what are your views on recycling? What do you recycle? The same question we had today. How would you describe the smell in your recycling bin? It's a fun way to talk to them. But I'm saying that we as citizens need to support recycling, be very visible. I recycle and I vote. So I hope you all do too. So thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Jared. We had a good time tonight. See you all tomorrow.
Good night.
Thanks, Michael.
Hey, everybody. Go to NPR and listen to the whole story tonight. Michael was on NPR. Thank you.
All right.